Today I'd like to talk about the movie Spree. Spree is a movie about a young man who works as a rideshare driver that's desperate to go viral, and he's got a deadly plan to achieve his goals. If you haven't watched Spree, I highly recommend it. This is going to be a spoiler review, so if you'd like to watch it, just go do that right now. So, one of the most unexpected and greatest praises that I have for the movie Spree is its integration of overlays. Because this is a story that's so social media and app heavy, it features several made up ones, from rideshare interfaces that show a map with the driver and customer pickup locations, to more standard Twitch looking content streaming screens with the viewer's chat just scrolling down the bottom. The insertion of these overlays onto the story playing out are seamless and extremely well done. The next praise and point I'd like to stress about Spree is that it's not a glamorization of Kurt's behaviors. Unlike most serial killer movies, Spree does not aim to excuse Kurt, to paint him as just some poor product of society. You can write that thesis, but the movie doesn't push that narrative. Spree as a movie is much more like clipped moments of the events he streams, with us as his viewers, and it's really up to us what we make of his actions. There are certainly points where we can sympathize with Kurt, like when we see him with his exploitative junkie father, when he balks at racist comments made by his first passenger, or when he confronts Bobby, who's been trolling Kurt for his own twisted little amusement. But the movie never goes so far as to present Kurt as a misunderstood character because of these things. They don't make Kurt entirely redeemable, they're just better qualities that he has on top of the horrible choices that he makes. You can argue that he's a tragic character because he was so brainwashed by social media that gaining clout was the only way he could think to validate his existence. And I think Spree does a great job of making it a mix of both. As much as Kurt kills people, he doesn't do it with any malice. Their deaths are just a means to his end, which is gaining infamy and therefore acknowledgement from the world as a whole. His sense of self is extremely warped, which is a comment on society's portrayal and interaction with fame. We've all seen the adoration some serial killers or bad actors get from fans, and it's fucked up. But to others, in our real world, it presents the message that negative publicity works just as well as positive, if not better. Kurt is desperate to be somebody, and after years of pursuing his genuine interests, putting himself out there on the internet just to get ignored, he decides that any spotlight is better than no spotlight. And that's a sad but very real perspective. We see so often in today people vying for attention by doing questionable things. So hungry for recognition, they lose track of what matters, who they are, or what value reality has, because it's all about social media and how much engagement you get. It's an extremely dangerous mentality, and one that's undeniably spreading. One thing that I really loved about Spree, and what kept me thinking about it long after it was over, was the way that it incorporated other players on the spectrum of pursuing fame. There's the obvious Jessie, the comedian, and her tag-along friend, Uno, the influencer, and Bobby, the troll streamer, but there's also Kurt's father, the wannabe rapper, the supremacist event speaker, the Instagram models that Kurt feeds to rabid dogs. Everyone has a toe in the game of social media. It was so telling when Kurt meets Uno that it's just a landscape of manipulation and stepping on each other to get ahead. Uno rightfully kind of ignores Kurt when he first meets her and immediately plugs himself because that's just kind of rude and pathetic. But the second that she realizes he had a decent following on his stream, he was on her radar. Someone that she could use for her own end, because not only did he have potential, he was also still terribly desperate. Everyone was sucking what clout they could off of each other, not just in Kurt killing people, but also him constantly asking what their secrets for success was. I mean, just look at Jesse's tag-along friend. He's stuck to her like glue because she's more successful than him and tolerates him, but despite everything that he says, he doesn't value her more than what tastes of engagement he can skim off of her fans. When she denounces social media, he's right there with a phone in her face for the quick cash-in on followers. The theme permeating Spree was of people absorbed in the pursuit of success on social media, be that as a career, a means of personification, or to gain power through influence. And the one question Spree begs an answer for the most throughout the movie is, how do you succeed? The answer that multiple people give Kurt throughout the movie is to be genuine. It's a good message, but isn't one Kurt can believe anymore. Kurt tried being genuine, and his backup plan was to go viral with a killing spree. This idea of being genuine is fleshed out and becomes its own thesis when we meet the character Jessie. She's famous for her personality. She posts on media about her real life, time that she spends with her mom, and not flashy after parties or bragging as influencers that get too big tend to do. When Kurt plugs himself and continuously pesters her about graciously bestowing him some of her influence with a shout out, Jessie is a bit disgusted. Kurt is so brainwashed, and apart from her brand of rawness in her comedy and speaking, she immediately looks down on him like he's less than human for pursuing fame with such gross fervor. When Kurt hits a pinch point, his plan changes to kill Jessie on stage at her comedy set because how dare she look down on him just for wanting what she already has and achieved, and with something so seemingly vague and unattainable as being genuine. A trait that Kurt apparently just doesn't fucking have, and that's infuriating for him. But there's a turn. When Jessie goes off script and speaks to the heart about meeting Kurt earlier that day to the crowd, she empathizes with him, humanizes him, admits that she used to be just like him. She talks about what social media and the pursuit of what others consider success is an undefinable rat race and how she's done with it. It's a really beautiful sentiment, and it almost seems like it'll change Kurt's whole perspective when he bursts from the crowd with his gun into the streets and doesn't make a show of killing her on stage because she acknowledged him. She acknowledged the genuine him, but unfortunately he's too far gone and decides to kidnap Jessie to further sap what fame and knowledge he can from her status. A cat and mouse game ensues. Jessie kills Kurt, and when she sees the depraved amusement of the people in his chat, in her slightly crazed state of triumph, she has a fuck it moment and takes a selfie with Kurt's dead body. The movie ends with Jessie abolishing her newly made vow to stay off social media as she skyrockets to new heights of fame, and Kurt lives on, immortalized in underground forums for people that watch his videos on The Plan, aka how to kill people and go viral. So, what's the message here? Is the key to fame being genuine? Kurt genuinely valued pursuing the plan over anything else, or what his life could have been, so finding an audience inspired by discreet serial killing methods was his legacy. But Jessie? I don't think that's the consensus for her. Jessie is a character that made her career off of being genuine, but she found her break into fame by abandoning it. She didn't want to be absorbed in the manipulative game of social media, and would have been happier without it, but she wasn't allowed to. Her friend, Kurt, all of her fans, they all demand that she remain in the social media sphere. More than the idea of presenting as genuine being the road to acknowledgement, I think that Spree's message is that once you're in the game of influencers, you don't choose to leave it. Fame is a commodity, and if you have it, people will siphon it off of you any way that they can. Jessie wanting to leave the social media landscape was a nice thought, but it was no longer her choice. It's a choice of the people to leave her alone. And would they? No. So in the end, it was better for her to keep going with it, take what she can and not look back or care who gets stepped on along the way, sympathizing with pathetic drive share guys begging for a plug because they'd all sooner use her to get to the means of their own end if given the chance. And that's exactly what Kurt did. If you don't use your fame for yourself, you will be used for your fame. That's why there was no changing Kurt's motives after he heard Jessie's speech. Being genuine was an end to the business, but the business of fame doesn't stop there, and it will never stop demanding sacrifices. If you've seen Spree, let me know what you thought about it. There's so many aspects to talk about. I'm sure that I didn't cover all of them. I know that I didn't. I've got a sneaking suspicion that Bobby was an even bigger troll than originally presented. He was probably watching Kurt kill people the whole time and just pretending that he didn't see it to get a kick out of making him feel small. Not that he actually missed tuning in, because what are the odds, right? What critique of social media did you get from Spree? Because I'd love to hear it. Anyway, as always, I'd like to thank you so much for watching.